Another video. In this update, we are going to be taking a look at the tropical Atlantic as we are going to be having potential for two tropical storms to impact the United States and even Mexico. So this is storm number one on satellite imagery. Quickly, before we get into the satellite imagery presentation, I would like to take a look at the National Hurricane Center of the 8 p.m. update in the next 7 days. So we have actually two areas here of tropical development with a elongated front that has been sagging into these areas and then something like that. Part with this very broad area of vorticity in the Gulf of Mexico, in the Caribbean, and even on the eastern side. This is called the Central American Gyre, and we usually get this time of year, but this year it is actually a lot more north than previous last year, and for that, it is actually causing some more issues. With that Florida rain that we almost had a chance for a tropical development off the East Coast right here that I talked about a few days ago, has went off into Canada and stuff. That's all gone. But then we actually had the leftovers of the cold front stationary, and now there's a chance of a tropical depression or storm, or maybe just a messy batch of gusty thunderstorms and rain showers to impact Florida, maybe Georgia. Just all depends on the steering fluids. But whatever it is, it's not just going to go out to sea. It is going to impact anyone in this yellow here. It could impact South Carolina, even Georgia. And a funny thing is, on my hurricane update, I did say Georgia. The chances this year is a lot higher. So now for that to happen, it's kind of it just tells you about it. But we do have a very low chance so far. It has been slowly but surely moving its way up. This morning it was at 20%. They do want to say they those say a trough of an area of low pressure is forecasted to form in a few hundred miles northeast of the central Bahamas in the couple days. The environment conditions could be conducive for some development of the system while it moves westward, west, northwestward. The system is forecast to approach the coast, the southeast coast, on Thursday or Friday. So by the end of the week, the new work week, we could be having impacts in Bahamas, maybe just a little bit more north. Just all depends. The conditions do appear to be conducive for some gradual development, and I do think when this does start to form in the next 24, 48, maybe 72 hours, we're going to have a decent strengthening. I think this thing could end up being a stronger tropical storm if it makes it to the Gulf of Mexico, if conditions all appear. Maybe this could be a runner for a hurricane. I'm saying that as the worst case scenario. All right. I've seen storms like this, and I mean, if it's enough time to develop, if it's not that much shear, the waters are really warm out here, the ocean heat content's really high up here, we could have a tropical storm, maybe even a strong tropical storm, maybe even a hurricane. All right. So, but then we have actually looked at over here, and this is the biggest chance so far in the hurricane season. Look, they do say a large area of disturbed weather is located over Central America and the Yucatan. That is where the tightest vorticity is located. And I'm noticing on the satellite imagery that I think the low is now in the Bay of Campeche. The conditions are not so favorable right now, but it's going to continue to get more favorable. There's some dry air, there's some wind shear, there's not that cyclonic flow out just yet. It's probably going to look a lot more organized tomorrow. I've looked on future models, and I mean, some of these models really have this becoming a strong potential tropical storm, right? So 50% in the next 48 hours, in the next 7 days, at least a 70. So one of these systems are going to become Alberto. I think there's a very high chance that this becomes Barrel. One of these will become Barrel. I think Barrel is going to form here. I think this is going to be a Barrel. I think this is going to be Alberto. So that means two potential strong tropical storms. And if this moves up not just enough north, it is some indications that this can impact southern Texas with a complete landfall. So we get a tropical storm landfall in Texas and then a tropical storm landfall in Florida. That's already two hits on the U.S. And we have actually realized with Invest 90L, it has caused historic flooding in Florida, caused so much damage, a lot of money, and even probably a few injuries out of it. So it just proves that it doesn't need to be a strong storm to really impact your days. But please be careful because this Florida area has been slammed already with a tropical disturbance. So the saturated ground is really prone to some big time flooding with just even a little bit amount of rain. The question will be maybe in the next coming videos is when is the curve, the MDR outbreak begins. And I think towards July, maybe the end of June, some more signs, but I don't think it's there yet. So now let's take a look at the satellite imagery. This is a great look at the satellite imagery. And I will admit, I mean, this looks pretty healthy for this wave. I mean, I think the models, I think some of the stronger models might have a nice hit on it. You can tell we had big time showers and thunderstorms with some deep convection to develop earlier. Kind of has died down, but we're going to see maybe some more attempts of growing on that. One thing I noticed is that rotation, the vorticity, it's starting to wrap around even better. Even with the wind shear, I think that cyclonic flow is beginning to end up in this way. How can I tell that? Look at these storms right here. They ain't moving. Yes, they're being sheared, right? I rather look on satellite, but there's a little bit more of convection blowing up around this area where the potential convection be. But there's banding features on the northern side. There's some banding features, some outflow starting to show. So the environment is not so bad for nothing to develop. I'm just saying, as of right now, it's going to take some more time to get prime. How else can I tell that is because being a wall of this is usually means that there's dry air being in it, kind of pushing it out, even some wind shear pushing out. But if you can tell, I mean, look at this northern band. I won't lie, it is. I mean, on the northern side earlier had some good banding features, and we had some good, consistent rotation. But how I can tell this is getting a little better organized is because I'm starting to notice more rotation around this area coming around here. So now I'm starting to see that. And then I'm seeing some more pushing in this way. So I think there's a little vortice or something starting to develop in there. And I looked at some of the future models and they do expect this to pretty quickly get its act together. And this is, I think, why the National Hurricane Center actually bumped it up is they're seeing what I'm seeing, and that's that very good rotation within the storm. Now, if we take a look at the water vapor loop, there is definitely some prone dry air being in it, and I think that's why there is some outflows even coming out of this because there is some dry air on the um western side of this. But I think what's going to happen is this is going to easily overrun it with more showers and thunderstorms and more convection on this side. It's just, I mean, look at this area. It's just a moisture bubble. So I think this has a huge moisture bubble. I think this is going to easily eat out the dry air and pretty much kill it. But I will say this is a pretty healthy looking storm here. So now let's take a look at the chances for it. All right. I like to take a look at the. I mean, why not? Let's look at the Western Atlantic. I know it's going to show that tropical storm. So, I mean, let's just look at that satellite imagery. So this is the satellite imagery of this area. Pretty disorganized showers and thunderstorms. There's some spinning going on around here. This is probably just a vortice because I don't think that is anything because that's just moving south. But I think in the next coming days, this is going to become a little better organized, and the environment out here is going to continue to get better organized. All right. So now let's take a look at some of these models, and I want to take a look at the NAM model because yes, the 0Z, but I want to look at the 18Z. I know that it's showing a pretty strong low there. I mean, I don't see anything with a strong low, but okay. But you could tell it's going to continue throughout tomorrow. This is going to continue to get better organized, and it does become a 1,000 millibar storm by 30 hours from now. I mean, this is the 18Z. But I mean, we do get two areas of weird low pressures, but one becomes more solidated. But then we get like a very strong tropical storm on the name, and I mean even a 989 out of this. So pretty strong, maybe even close to a hurricane, but weakens back off a bit. But makes a landfall just near the Mexico and Texas border with a 995 low or 993 low. But look at all this moisture. This is a very healthy tropical storm. For this area doesn't really get its act together, just a wave on the NAM. But this is a pretty healthy looking storm in that Gulf of Mexico, and that's a huge indication that we have to really watch. All right, we look at nah, that doesn't go out that to that point. If we look at the icon model, this is another model here, and this one has been very aggressive, showing a tightening low 999 has a wave there, but this becomes a pretty strong tropical storm into southern Texas. So I mean, pretty strong, and it's pretty slow moving too. So some very heavy rain, some big time flooding. We'll get into the details tomorrow. This stays as a wave, open wave, brings some moisture for Florida, and then that's it. And then we don't know what's after that. Maybe another area, but this is the icon that has been pretty consistent on this tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. We're gonna have to see with that. The Canadian now, if we take a look at that, pretty aggressive too. I mean, 1,000 millibar low pressure here. Um, let's do that. Let's do a diff. Okay, let's do that. Boom. So if we look at it on CMC here, I mean, there's a tropical storm makes a landfall, and look at all that rain. I mean, if you guys just want to look at the rain for just one model, what this could be, I mean, a huge impactful rain up to 6 to 12 inches. All right, this is going to be a big, big storm here. If we take a look at the GFS, I mean, look at the rainfall. I mean, that's over a foot of rain right there. So very significant. If we take a look at the GFS scenarios on this, and I mean, this has been kind of back and forth. I mean, showing all these vorticities, but it does become a tropical depression, tropical storm, does this weird thing. But one thing you notice is this one. In the next coming days, this will develop, becomes 8,008, 8,009. I mean, stays into a decent looking storm, maybe being underguarded because of this Gulf of Mexico storm. But the conditions, if you look at the conditions on this, let's go to the Western Atlantic because I'm gonna like to look at the wind shear and the dry air. Is I know people are like, maybe it's just not strengthening. But look, there is maybe some dry air that's in the beginning, but this honestly gets its own cyclonic flow outside. And I mean, look, this is a pretty healthy area of a storm, and even the Gulf storm does become more conducive with the cyclonic flow. So I think both of these storms have very, very high chances. Maybe the one thing is that dry air chokes on it a little bit more, but I think this still will have a chance. And speaking of the dry air, if we take a look, I mean, look, there's dry air there, but this moisture bubble beats it out, and I mean, it just becomes more healthy. All right, I don't think it's not going to. I mean, the Euro even has like 1,000 millibars, and this is the latest 18Z. And I mean, this has been a pretty consistent storm. I mean, 999, 1,000. This is maybe, but look how slow it's moving. It's a very slow mover. This one stays more south, maybe tries to get to low. I think this one's being underguarded. I mean, I think at least one storm is going to form out of each other. If we looked at the 12Z here on the Euro, um, yes. So actually, I mean, yeah, pretty much the same thing. I think just a little more north. I don't know. But then the Euro likes to have a little bit of another storm to try and develop in the Bay Campeche, but that just fails and nothing becomes with that. Um, if we looked at the latest NAM, there it is, tropical storm here in the Gulf. A lot of moisture with it. This is a big moisture field here. So that pretty much wraps this video up. Before I go, I like to take a look at some of the water temperatures because I know. So speaking of the water temperature, I mean, look, the water's just in the Bay Campeche is up to 30 degrees Celsius, maybe even some spots 31 degrees Celsius. But I mean, this whole pathway, this is some very warm water, and if the conditions are right, we're gonna have a lot of moisture. And even with this storm over here, it's gonna be 27, 28 degrees, maybe some 29s. Just see how quickly this will warm up. This has been a warming up scenario now for quite a bit. So I do think the waters are going to continue to warm here, and I do expect that. Um, Bay of so now let's just take a little bit more in-depth look of the satellite imagery. All right, for tropical development in the Gulf. All right, so if we take a look at the high res, how can I tell this is becoming an organized system rather quickly? We're having some consistency on thunderstorms here near the area where we think the low pressure is trying to form. Maybe not intense convection, but there is quite a bit of convection, and the environment is becoming a little bit better here. You can tell more showers and thunderstorms on the northwestern side. How much more convection blows up in here, that could tighten up the vorticity. But like I said, there is some wind shear. And if let me just update these maps, make sure is yes, there is some wind shear here in the Bay Campeche, up to 25, maybe 30 knots. Not too bad, but like I said, the cyclonic flow is beginning. This is going to continue to inch its way into the Bay Campeche, and the cyclonic flow is already beginning. So the more this moves up north, the more we're going to see that cyclonic flow underneath the system. Same thing with this area too. It already has a bit of a look to it on the environment here. I think that is where the area wants. A little off, just a little, but we'll have to see with that. Satellite imagery. So we take a look at the wind shear, expected to continue to drop over these areas, and I think that in here, this is just going to become even a better environment. So that's going to probably wrap it up. Hope you guys like this one, and see you in the next one. Have a great night.